It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview the Rhode Island women's soccer coach, Megan Jessee. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you got started in your coaching career?
It started when I was still playing in college, when I was doing soccer camps over the summer. That's kind of how I, made some money over the summer and was able to train. So started doing summer camps and doing some club work with local club teams. And then once I kind of finished at UConn, got a GA at Slippery Rock University as a first-time college coach, which was great. So that's kind of how I got into it. I basically knew that I didn't really want to do anything else outside of soccer. So if I wasn't playing, this was the next best thing. So that's kind of how I got into coaching.
Can you talk about what you've experienced so far as the Rhode Island soccer coach?
Yeah, so, going into my fourth year, the first 2 years especially, a lot of transition. So those years definitely had a lot of ups and downs. But that's part of going through a program of transition. The third year, much better just because recruiting players that kind of, had the same view and wanted the same kind of thing in terms of, playing for championships and things like that. That made a huge difference. We made a lot of progress last year. Obviously second year was tough, went 0-17-1. The next year got 9 more results, which was great. And obviously with a very young team. So still learning, still got a ways to go, but definitely have made a lot of progress. It's definitely been rough at times, but now that we're kind of on the other end, we're definitely on the upside of the rebuild, which is really exciting. So I'm really excited for the next couple of years.
That's very exciting. Can you talk about your experience at Wake Forest as the assistant coach?
Yeah, I was there for 9 years. I got to learn under a very good coach, Tony DeLuz, who's the head women's soccer coach down there. We have very similar philosophies, and, it was just great being able to learn from him. He also gave me space to kind of do my own thing and learn, as I went. But anytime you're playing in the ACC, which top to bottom is probably the best women's soccer conference in the country, every day is a challenge. There's no other conference where you're going to play UNC on a Thursday and turn around and play Duke on a Sunday. So you always have to be on top of your game. You always have to be prepared. From a recruiting standpoint, you got to go after the best players in the country and really around the world to compete at a high level day in and day out in the ACC. So I thought it was great. It was definitely a conference that constantly challenges you to become a better coach. So definitely a lot of room for growth for sure.
Can you talk about the 2010 season whenever y'all went to the NCAA conference?
Yeah, 2010, great year. That was the first ACC championship. It was a great experience. We had some very good players. We had Katie Stengel, 3-time All-American up top. We had Aubrey Bledsoe, 3-time All-American in goal. Both of them playing in the professional league right now. And then quite a few players, in between those two that just very good players. All the pieces kind of came together that year. And also the year after in 2011 went to the Final Four. So great experience to be able to, obviously – win an A10 or ACC championship. You're playing against the best teams in the country, and to have to, beat 3 teams in basically a 6-day span, and I think it was Florida State, UNC, and then Maryland at the time, who was in the conference. Just what an experience, and obviously to do in a shootout, so very dramatic fashion for sure, but awesome, just an awesome experience all the way around.
Can you talk about the 2008 season whenever y'all at Wake Forest appeared in the championship? Ranked 6 in the country.
Yeah, so, that year, so I think you're talking about 2009. It was probably, we got there with the other assistant, Tim Santoro. He's at NC State now as a head coach in 2008, kind of right before the season started. So 2008 was very much a learning curve. 2009 was great because we got to spend a whole year with the team training, whether it was in the weight room or on the field. And I think especially the weight room piece, that was really a big change for that team, spending a lot more time in the weight room in the off season. Tony actually had gotten his hip replaced that spring, so he was actually out for about 4 weeks. So We really pushed the weight room that spring, and you could see the difference in the fitness and just the overall ability to kind of get through the strenuous of a season. A lot less injuries in 2009, so it just allowed us to play at a high level, a lot longer. And there's no doubt, that South Carolina game, that last minute win, really kind of just solidified, all the work and the direction the program was going in at that time. But definitely a good experience. Definitely the first step in really kind of that 2010, 2011 year where we were really able to put the pieces together and ultimately get some results and some championships.
Can you talk about some of the teams that y'all play in Rhode Island, like Maine? Are they like competitive, like whenever you were at Wake Forest playing against Carolina and NC State?
So the other A10 team, so UMass, obviously, that's probably a rivalry team. That's the closest one. So, definitely all those games are very good games. They've all come down to last second over the last couple of years with them. So definitely, it's a good challenge. It's a good league. Everyone's very close. The number 1 seed is not that far off from the number 14 seed. So every game's a challenge. Every game's winnable, but ultimately every game you can also lose too when you don't show up to play. So it's a challenging conference. Fordham's very good. Those are obviously the closest teams we play. So every game you definitely can't take a day off, that's for sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the recruitment process at Rhode Island?
Yeah, so I like to take our time and really get to know players, and I don't really have any set timeline that I work on. It really kind of just depends on recruit to recruit, but we're going after the best players in the country and ultimately in the world. We're trying to get more into international as well. But we're looking for kids who obviously have a good athletic background. You need a certain level of athleticism to play at this level, who are really kind of soccer junkies. We love the kids who just have a passion for the sport, and want to be around it constantly, whether it's on the training field, whether it's in the office watching video, obviously during games, but also, really want to get better and maximize who they are as an athlete. So players who really value the weight room and how it can help their game on the field. And ultimately, we want players who want to win championships. We don't want players who just want to play at this level. We want players who really want to succeed at this level and win championships and get some rings. Like, that's ultimately what we're building towards. So really a passion for the game, and then also a grit. Players that when hardship comes up, because it always does, whether it's an injury, whether it's maybe a streak of some losses, there's always some kind of adversity to overcome in this environment. So definitely players who are mentally tough, who can take on those challenges and want to take on those challenges.
What are some future plans for the Rhode Island soccer program moving forward?
I think right now it's just continuing in the direction we've been going in. We brought in a solid class of 14 last year. We're bringing in a solid class of 6 this year, 6 new freshmen that are going to challenge right away for playtime. Next year's class is shaping up very well. We'll probably bring in 6 players. But I think a lot of it's just progressing in the same process we've been going through. Right now we're still fairly young. So as we get these players, a couple years of experience and just have that experience and stuff, that's really what's going to change this program ultimately. So now we can take some of those wins and then ultimately turn them into championships on the other end. So it's really just progressing. The other thing I'd love to do is get back in contact with the alumni. There's been a lot of turnover in this program over the years, but there's been some great alumni who've been through this program, and we really want to get them back connected with the current players. Obviously it's a great resource for them off the field when it comes to careers and stuff like that, and just some mentorship stuff. But also just, to help them on the field as well. They've been through this experience, and it's just a good resource to have your alumni, obviously involved in the program. So that's really what we're the direction we're going in. And it's exciting. We're really at an exciting point right now. I really think the pieces are starting to come together. So
that's amazing. How did coronavirus affect you in the recruitment process?
It definitely affected it. I think it slowed it down a little bit. Obviously we've done a lot of virtual stuff, a lot of Zoom calls. I'm sure we've missed out on some players because we haven't been able to get out and see teams play, which we normally would have done all spring and early summer, for sure. Obviously the visits have been tough, with the 21 class. We want to get kids on campus, but because of the dead period, we haven't been able to. So we've been doing a lot of virtual visits and, trying to, show as much of the program online as we possibly can. Hopefully by the end of the year, stuff starts to open up again and we can get back on the field. Right now, we're starting to get a lot of video from clubs who are filming a lot of their games and practices and tournaments. So that's definitely helping a lot. So we can recruit quite a bit from there. Internationally, it hasn't really changed the international recruiting that much. Most of it was done through video anyway. So, in our contacts. So the international stuff is going pretty well still. But I mean, even with the challenges, I still think we've put together a very good 21 class. We have a couple more players we're trying to ultimately get committed, but the 21 class is really shaping up pretty well. And the 22 class, we already have some contacts with some kids that we've kind of, gone through the process with a little bit. So hopefully early in 2021, we can get out to see them play, and then get them on campus. So, but I mean, definitely it's been different for sure. But, I think we've adjusted pretty well as a staff, and I still think we have some very good quality players that we're bringing in the next 2 years. So.
That's pretty cool. Can you talk about the official visit as you talked about? Like, what is your process when it comes to the official visit?
Yeah, so obviously when we're in a non-dead period, non-COVID situation, it's very important that we bring kids on campus. We really want them to see the ins and outs of the program. We're not trying to candy coat everything here. We want to tell them like it is. This is exactly what you're getting into. This is exactly what the Rhode Island Women's Soccer program is. That's very important. We're only looking to bring in anywhere from 6 to 8 on any given year. So we really want to find the right players who really fit the mentality of this program, the culture of this program, and the vision of this program. So we bring them in. Hopefully there's some training going on, potentially games. They spend some time with the players away from the coaching staff. Obviously we show them around the facilities and stuff, and then we really just sit down and talk, get to know them. They get to know us. We tell them kind of everything of, the vision of the program and where we're trying to go. And, obviously that's when we can kind of figure out ultimately if they fit in and ultimately if this is where they really want to be.
Do they do photo shoots, like, for example, how the football program does?
Not really. We don't have quite the resources, so we haven't done as much as that. We will try to take some pictures and stuff, so we have some stuff when obviously signing day rolls around and things like that. But we're probably not as advanced in that sense, just because of some resources, and then ultimately just staff-wise, they have a lot more staff than we do. So they tend to be able to do a few more things like that. But it's stuff ultimately in the bigger picture in the future we'd like to do more of. Obviously, as we put more things in place and stuff, that those are the kind of things that we get to add to the program and stuff, little things like that. So we're getting there, but not as much as that stuff right now for sure.
What do you plan on accomplishing in this upcoming year as you got cut short due to COVID last year?
Yeah, so I mean, this spring we're playing. We'll definitely play an A10 schedule. Obviously, if COVID allows for it. So really, the goal is to compete. We'll be in a pod of 4 teams, so UMass, or 5 teams. So UMass, Fordham, St. Joe's, and LaSalle. We'll play each of them home and away. If you win your pod, you go to the A10 tournament. So that's our goal. Our goal is to win the pod and go to the A10 tournament and win the tournament. We've definitely gotten to the point now where I think we have all the pieces we need to compete. Obviously, we have the advantage of being on campus this fall. Some other schools are not. So we're using this fall really to train, to get fit again, and obviously, get the team together from a tactical standpoint. So hopefully come, February when our season starts, we're able to kind of hit the ground running and compete at a high level right away. So, but I mean, it's all about winning championships at this point. That's our goal. We've got the players we need. So that's what we're working for right now.
Whenever COVID happened, what did you help prepare your team to whenever you found out that y'all weren't going to be able to finish out your season?
Yeah, so we were on spring break, and obviously at that point they had extended spring break for another week. Obviously there was a lot of talk of, are we coming back? Are we not? Originally it was like April 6th we were coming back. So it was like, all right, 3 weeks off campus. We'll kind of give them some stuff in the meantime that they can do, that they can work out on their own, and then we'll come back to campus and play. Obviously that did not happen. So it was just a lot of communication. We did some team building stuff over, online and stuff to kind of keep the team connected. We did some day in the life videos so everyone could kind of see what they were doing at home. And then ultimately we did do quite a few team meetings where we went through some tactical stuff of the system we're going to play this year and things like that. So, I mean, it was kind of, obviously a learn as you go. The biggest thing was trying to stay connected with the team, and making sure that they had workouts to do, with whatever, facilities or equipment they had available. Obviously a lot of gyms and stuff were closed, and a lot of soccer fields were closed. A lot of them were pretty much within their neighborhoods, within their houses, kind of trying to figure out, ways to work out. So, I mean, obviously it's a challenge. I mean, it was definitely a different, experience for all of us. All of us were kind of learning on the go, but I think the players came through it pretty well. I mean, all of them came back pretty fit this fall, ready to train, ready to compete at a high level. So, a challenge for sure, but I think our players have been up to it.
What advice would you give upcoming high school athletes that are looking to play college soccer?
I think I would say figure out what level of commitment you want. Division I soccer is very committed. It's kind of like a job in a sense. And if you don't want that commitment, it will really feel like a job. But if you love it and you want that commitment, then you'll love every second of it. So it's really figuring out, what do you want in an experience at the college level? Do you want soccer to be a full-time thing, or do you want it to be more of a part-time thing where, maybe in the fall you got your season, but in the spring you have more time to do other things if you want to study abroad or, get into some other things, sororities, fraternity, whatever. But really figure out what you want in an experience, like what you personally want, not what your parents want for you, but what you really want in that experience, because you're going to be the one living it for 4 years. And then ultimately really figure out what you want to study. The academics is huge. Like ultimately when you leave any university after 4 years, you're going to need that degree. So make sure they have that program that you want to study. Maybe do some research and figure out what areas you want to study if you're not sure, or at least find a university that has a good broad variety of majors that if you're not sure, you'll have a lot to choose from when you get there.
What advice would you give upcoming college coaches that are looking to get into women's soccer?
I think it's just about ultimately getting involved, whether it's as a volunteer, whether it's as a second assistant. It's ultimately as a graduate assistant. You really kind of have to just find your way into the game and then be willing to spend the time to learn. A lot of people have to go through as a volunteer, until they can get hired on a full-time staff. We have a volunteer here now, Katie. She's done a great job. So she's working on the side and coming over whenever she can to help out. And hopefully she gets the experience she needs then to get a full-time job within the college game. But it's definitely a matter of how bad do you want it and how much time are you really willing to spend to kind of, get in there, build a network, get the experience you need. It is very different from club coaching because you have the recruiting piece, but you also have the academic piece. You got the school piece. I mean, there's so many more things that go into running a college program than running a club program. So obviously compliance, administration. So the only way to get experience doing that stuff is actually to get inside a program. So I really recommend volunteering somewhere if you can. Obviously, if you can't get an actual paying job at the college level initially, which is pretty hard to do with little college experience. So.
Where can my listeners find you at, along with Rhode Island's women's soccer on social media?
Yeah, so Facebook, University of Rhode Island Women's Soccer, Twitter and Instagram are Rhody Women's Soccer. So that's where most of our social media is done. So that definitely follow us. You'll get the latest information on our program. Right now, you'll kind of see how we're dealing with COVID and, obviously the difference in training and stuff. You'll see a lot of masks and social distance at this point in small groups, but that's where you can follow us. That's where you can get to know our program and obviously schedules, things like that, get to know what's happening, the latest information.
Thank you again, Megan, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Rhode Island in this upcoming year. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Megan, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.